Spending $1,000, $2,000 or more on an AR-15? Give me 2 minutes before you buy. Because some major brands are charging you for a logo, not better performance. I compared specs, owner complaints, armorer discussions, and real-world experience to find 5 brands that aren't worth your money, and 5 that offer far more for the price. By the end, you'll know what to look for and which brands deserve your money. And number 1 on the worst list? It's a name almost every gun store employee recommends. Let's get into it. 5. Colt. I know, starting with Colt is going to make some of you close this video right now. Stay with me, because this one requires context. Colt didn't just make an AR-15. Colt made the AR-15 what it is today. The military contracts, the decades of law enforcement adoption, the fact that Colt and AR-15 were basically synonymous for most of the rifle's existence. That history is real, and nobody serious about this industry would try to take that away from them. But here's the problem. In 2026, you are paying a history tax, not a manufacturing premium. A modern Colt AR-15 rifle can run you noticeably more than a comparable rifle from a newer manufacturer. And when you put the actual spec sheets side by side, barrel steel composition, bolt carrier group material, chrome lining thickness, trigger quality, the technical gap between a Colt and a rifle costing several $100s less has narrowed dramatically. Manufacturing technology and machining tolerances across the entire industry have improved. Smaller companies with modern CNC equipment can now hit tolerances that used to require Colt's institutional expertise to achieve. Think about it like buying a laptop from a legacy computer brand purely because of what they built in the 1990s, while a newer company is putting equivalent components into a machine for less money because they don't have 50 years of brand overhead to fund. You're not paying for what's happening at the muzzle, you're paying for what happened in 1959. And that's a completely valid choice if history and heritage matter to you. But be honest with yourself about what you're actually buying. 4. Anderson Manufacturing. This one's the opposite problem, and honestly a more frustrating one, because Anderson didn't start out overpriced. They started out as one of the best value plays in the entire industry. Anderson built its reputation as the entry-level, budget-friendly AR-15 option. For years, that reputation was earned. Cheap, functional, a genuinely solid choice for a first build or a basic range rifle. A lot of people's very first AR-15 was an Anderson, mine included for a project build years back. But go read the last few years of owner reports across forums and review threads. The complaints about inconsistent tolerances, feed ramp machining that varies noticeably from unit to unit, and quality control that seems to depend entirely on which day your specific rifle rolled off the line. Those complaints have piled up in a way that's hard to ignore. Here's why this matters more than it sounds like. When a budget brand's entire value proposition is reliable and cheap, and the reliability part starts slipping, the brand doesn't have a fallback. Colt can lean on history. Daniel Defense can lean on premium materials. Anderson's entire pitch was consistency at a low price point. And consistency is exactly what recent reports suggest has started to erode. 3. Palmetto State Armory. Upper-tier lines. I want to be genuinely fair here, because PSA gets thrown into these conversations constantly, and half the time it's not a fair comparison. PSA makes some excellent budget rifles. Their entry-level line built a real, deserved reputation for value, and I'm not putting that reputation on this list. What I am calling out is their push into premium-priced lines, rifles riding on the goodwill their budget rifles built over the years, while being priced closer to boutique brand territory. Here's the trap. When a brand has spent years training its customer base to associate its name with incredible value, and then releases a new tier priced like the premium brands they use to undercut, a lot of buyers don't make the mental adjustment. They see the PSA name, they think value brand, and they don't compare the new premium line against actual premium manufacturers the way they should. They're trusting the name instead of the specific product line. And those are two very different things now. If you're buying PSA, the budget lines are still, in my opinion, some of the best value in the industry. Just make sure you know which tier you're actually looking at before you check out. 2. Bushmaster. Bushmaster was a genuine industry leader once. A name that stood right alongside Colt in terms of trust and reputation for a long stretch of AR-15 history. Today, a lot of longtime AR owners will tell you the same thing, almost word for word if you read enough forum threads. Rifles coming off the line now don't match what Bushmaster was producing 15-20 years ago. Ownership changes, manufacturing shifts, cost-cutting decisions made somewhere up the corporate chain. All of it has quietly changed what's inside the box, even though the name printed on the outside looks exactly the same as it always has. This is, honestly, the single biggest danger of brand loyalty in this industry, and it's worth sitting with for a second. The name on a rifle doesn't manufacture the rifle. The current factory, under current ownership, sourcing from current suppliers, with current quality control standards, manufactures the rifle. All of those things can change, and often do change, especially after a company changes hands, without a single press release telling you about it. The brand you trusted 5 years ago and the brand with the same name today can be, functionally, two different companies. 1. Smith & Wesson M&P Sports Series. Here's the one that's going to upset people, so let me walk through the full reasoning before you head to the comments. The M&P Sport is the rifle every gun store employee in America points a first-time buyer toward. Walk into almost any gun shop, tell them you want your first AR-15, and there's a very good chance the Sport comes up in the first 60 seconds. And here's the thing, it's not necessarily because it's the best rifle at its price point. It's because it's the safest recommendation an employee can make. Nobody gets a customer complaint for recommending a Smith & Wesson. It's a name everyone already trusts, which makes it a zero-risk suggestion for the person behind the counter. But safe recommendation and best value are not the same thing, and conflating them is exactly how a brand can quietly raise prices for years without losing market share. Over the last several years, the Sport line's price has crept upward, while the rifle itself has stayed largely the same. Same barrel profile, same basic furniture, same feature set, generation after generation. Meanwhile, newer manufacturers entered the market during that same window and are matching or beating that spec sheet for less money, often with better warranty support behind it. You're not paying for a bad rifle, and I want to be clear about that. You're paying a brand recognition premium for a rifle that hasn't had to compete hard on merit in years, because it doesn't need to. It just needs to keep being the name every gun store employee already trusts enough to say out loud. 5 brands actually worth your money. 5. Aero Precision. Aero built its reputation the hard way, component by component, starting with uppers and lowers, years before they ever sold a complete rifle. That get the individual parts exactly right first approach shows in a way that's hard to fake. Talk to anyone who's built more than a handful of ARs from different manufacturers' parts kits, and Aero's name comes up constantly for a specific reason. Their tolerances are consistent. Their lowers fit uppers from other manufacturers cleanly. Their pins seat correctly. That sounds like a small thing until you've fought with a parts kit from a company that didn't get those tolerances right, and suddenly a project that should have taken an hour takes an entire weekend. Aero doesn't spend heavily on flashy influencer marketing or huge ad campaigns. From everything publicly available about how they operate, that budget goes toward manufacturing consistency instead. That's exactly the kind of company I want holding on to my money. One that's investing in the part of the product I can't see instead of the part of the product that shows up in an Instagram ad. 4. Daniel Defense. Yes, they're priced higher than budget brands. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, and I'm not going to try to sell you on Daniel Defense as some hidden bargain. It isn't one. But Daniel Defense earns a spot on this list, right next to Colt on the Robbing You Blind list, because of one critical difference. When you pay the Daniel Defense premium, you're actually getting something concrete for it. Cold hammer-forged barrels, exceptional and consistently reported quality control, and a reputation built on ongoing military and law enforcement contracts. Contracts Daniel Defense has had to continuously re-earn through performance testing, not coast on from decades ago. This is the difference between Colt's history tax and Daniel Defense's premium. One is charging you for a name from the past. The other is charging you for manufacturing quality happening in the present, verified by institutional buyers who have every incentive to switch suppliers if the quality slips. 3. Ruger AR-15 series. This is where a lot of accuracy-focused, budget-conscious shooters land after getting burned by a flashier name once. And I mean that specifically. Go read enough owner histories and you'll see the pattern. First rifle was a name-brand purchase that disappointed them. Second rifle was a Ruger, and the Ruger is the one that's still running fine years later. Ruger doesn't have the boutique reputation that some brands on this list carry, and that's honestly part of the point. They're not selling you a lifestyle brand or an aspirational image. They're selling you a rifle that reliably does what it's supposed to do, priced fairly, backed by a company with one of the strongest reputations in the entire firearms industry, not just the AR-15 market, for standing behind its products when something does go wrong. It's understated, it's consistent, and it rarely shows up in worst AR-15 I ever bought, complaint threads, which, after reading through as many of those threads as I have for this video, honestly says more than any spec sheet could. 2. Bravo Company Manufacturing. BCM grew almost entirely through word of mouth in the professional and enthusiast community, not through advertising budgets or influencer partnerships. If you've spent any real time in serious AR-15 forums, or talked to anyone who's worked as a professional armorer for a department or a training company, BCM's name comes up constantly, and almost never in a complaint thread. Everything is machined in-house rather than outsourced to whoever had the cheapest bid that quarter. Their quality control is considered industry-leading by a lot of the armorers and instructors who actually run these rifles hard, day after day, in training environments, where a malfunction isn't just an inconvenience. And their warranty support has a strong, consistent reputation for actually being honored without a fight. No runaround, no, well, technically that's not covered. That combination, professional-grade trust plus word-of-mouth only growth, is about as strong a signal as you can get in this industry. 1. Sons of Liberty Gunworks. This is the one competitive shooters and serious enthusiasts talk about quietly, almost like they don't want the secret getting out and driving the price up. Smaller manufacturer, obsessive attention to barrel quality and finish work. A reputation for fit and finish that regularly gets compared favorably to brands charging significantly more, sometimes double, in the comparisons I've come across while researching this. It's not the biggest name on this list, and if you ask 10 random gun owners on the street, most of them probably haven't heard of it. But that gap between how well known the brand is and how good the actual product is exactly the kind of gap I want you walking away from this video knowing how to spot. Not just for this specific brand, but as a pattern you can apply to every future purchase in this hobby. So here's the uncomfortable truth about the AR-15 market in 2026. The price tag tells you almost nothing about what's actually inside the rifle. The name stamped on the lower receiver is marketing. The barrel steel, the bolt carrier group, the gas system, the machining tolerances, the actual quality control process on the factory floor. That's where your money should be going. And that's the part almost no first-time buyer ever actually looks at before they buy.